What's going on, folks? Goatly Goat here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my rankings of the new Pokemon in Generation 9 from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The idea for this video comes from the Barnyard's own Fish Gato.
Thank you, Fish.
These rankings are going to be based off of how viable the Pokemon is in battle, its design, and, well, anything else I can think of along the way. So without further ado, let's begin. Alright, so we are going to start off with the regional Tauros variant. The Tauros itself, the regular fighting type Tauros itself, honestly, it's okay. It's actually, I'm going to put this in B tier. I have to respect that because this Tauros, no. I'm going to put this Tauros in C tier because it was these Tauros that absolutely ruined me in the post-game championship tournament. Paldean Wooper is absolutely A tier. I hold off on sending it into S tier for the fact that it's, it's still the baby. You know what? No, it goes into S tier. It's one of the best. Come on, this is Pooper. Sprigatito, I love the design. I'm going to put it into A. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put this into B just because it's a baby, because Florigato goes into A. And honestly, Meowscarada, I really like a lot, but because, unfortunately, it's just got kind of weak typings. So I'll put it in A alongside Florigato. Plus, it has an amazing signature move in Flower Trick. Fuecoco, that's an absolute goated starter if I've ever seen one. Crocalor, I'm also going to throw into A tier. And Skeledirge, Skeledirge belongs in S tier. First off, this is the best starter final design of the three by far. Quaxly is absolutely adorable. I'll throw him in A tier for design alone. Quaxwell, I didn't really play a whole lot with Quaxwell or Quaquaval, so I'm going to put this in C for the design, but the Quaquaval I'll throw into B because I see Quaquaval used in the competitive scene every now and then, so might as well. Lechonk, for the name alone, belongs in S tier, but because it's just the typical normal type early route Pokemon, I'll throw it in B tier because it's really not that useful. Oink alone, also, I'm going to throw into B tier. It's just a pig. Since Clodsire was a little out of order, let's just do that real quick. I'll throw Clodsire into, honestly, B tier. I like Clodsire a lot. If I could get a plushie of this guy, I would be very happy. I used it a lot earlier in the game. I haven't had a lot of use for it later in the game. The Dunsparce, I actually kind of like the fact that it's just a longer Dunsparce. It was so funny to me when people were going crazy about, it's just a longer Dunsparce. I think that's so funny. It took them 20 plus years to just add 1 or 2 segments more. I love it. Tarountula, its shiny is nice, but that's about it. Spidops belongs in F tier if I had it here.
You stupid, dumb animal!
Nimble actually was a pretty good Pokemon for me earlier in the game. I'll put it in B tier, but Low Kicks absolutely goes into A tier. I love the typing. I love the move pool. It's a sneaky good Pokemon. Rellor is just roller spelled backwards, and Rabsca is... Actually, Rabsca's not bad. Rabsca is pretty useful in the competitive scene. I have seen a lot of use for him, and I really like the design, honestly, the glow up from Rellor. I'll throw Rabsca into A tier. Greavard is adorable, and on cuteness alone belongs in B tier. Houndstone absolutely belongs in A tier because of its effectiveness. Flittle, this is just useless to me, but Espathra, on the other hand, is phenomenal. Very popular right now in raid battles. Farigiraf is also, I want to say it's kind of in the same boat in my mind as Espathra. It's not as fast as Espathra, so it doesn't make it as useful. So I guess for that sake, it comes down to B a little bit, right around there. Wiglet. I gotta be honest, there's a lot of Pokemon that they introduced that I just love because they're so silly. I'll throw Wiglet into B, and I'll put Wugtrio right behind it. Dondozo goes straight to S tier. Its use in the competitive scene is well documented. Its shiny is amazing, and it's a sushi chef. It's awesome. Volton Balooza! These things are just annoying at this point. Finizen itself is not that great. Palafin before it evolves, I guess because it's Palafin, I'm gonna put that in C tier also. But Palafin itself is A tier in my mind. The thing that's hard to overcome with Palafin is the fact that you need to switch out in order to use it to its fullest ability. If you get unlucky with timing or the wrong move, it could be unfortunate for you. But if you can get it to work for you, this thing is a tank. Smoliv, I need a plush of. It goes to S tier. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know this thing's name. Duolive? It's what Duosion would be with olives on its head. Put it in C tier. Arboliva, on the other hand, Arboliva is awesome. It's a little underutilized. I kind of want to put it in A tier. I would have used Arboliva on my team as my grass type if I did not have Meowscarada as my starter. Capsakid is kind of weak. It's got a decent shiny, so I'll put it in C tier. Scovillain. Scovillain was full of promise as the first fire and grass type, and I have seen it used in the competitive scene a little bit. I'll put it up into higher B tier. Tadbulb is kind of frustrating, especially the shiny. It's not that great. But Bellibolt is pretty cool. I haven't seen a whole lot of Bellibolt being used in the competitive scene. In the game itself, I didn't really use it a lot, but the design is fantastic. I'll make Varuma C tier and Revavaruma B tier. I like the Steel Poison type. I like the concept of it being a car engine, or at least an engine. Aside from that, not a whole lot of play for me. Orthworm, I just love the shiny. Put him up into Lechonk territory. Tandemaus is better when it evolves, and its shiny is terrible, so it'll be C tier for me. I like the evolution mouse hold a lot. I like how it evolves. I like that it can be either a family of 4 or a family of 3. The family of 3 is harder to get. In fact, you have like a 1 in 100 chance of actually getting the family of 3 to evolve. Seatottle is adorable, and for that belongs in B tier, but Titan is a beast and belongs in A tier. Frigibax. This line is pretty cool actually, but Frigibax itself is just another typical like pseudo-legendary first dragon in the chain. Arctibax is actually kind of useful though. I remember using Arctibax at a lot of moments in my later playthrough. Baxcalibur takes the cake. Great design, it's really strong. Its typing is take it or leave it. Tatsugiri goes into A tier. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put Tatsugiri next to Dondozo in S tier. I like the commander ability and the fact that when in a double battle, Tatsugiri just hops into Dondozo's mouth. It's just like, protect me. Protect me, Squire! Cyclozar doesn't look as cool as I want it to be, but its usefulness cannot be understated. Pawmi is useless, Pawmo is useless, and Pawmet is just salvaged by Revival Blast.
You've just got to try harder not to suck.
Wattrel and Kilowattrel, I'm actually going to put both into B tier. I really like the design. I like the electric flying. There's just not a whole lot of use I found with them. Bombardier goes into C tier for me. Bombardier's design is a little out there, but it's kind of cool to me. I like the theory in my mind that it was designed that way in relation to this game's mechanics for breeding, since it looks like the stork, and I assume it's the one putting the eggs in the basket at a picnic. Squawkabilly. I never really saw this bird that much throughout my playthrough. I never used it, and quite frankly, I don't plan on it. But Flamigo is a bird I used a lot, and I like Flamigo. I'm absolutely putting Flamigo into A tier. When the game first came out and I got this in my party, I was blown away at how it was carrying most of my battles in the early game. Cloth is S tier, purely on design, but also its cry is really cool. I want to like Knackley more, but it'll go into D tier for me. Knacklestack can go into high C tier. Garganackle or Garganical is an A tier Pokemon to me. I like the fact that it has Salt Cure, which can help to neutralize a lot of its own weaknesses. Glimmet is going into C tier for me. I really don't have any negative things to say about it. I think the only thing I would say about it is that it tends to get caught in walls during outbreaks. But Glamora, on the other hand, I'm going to throw into A tier. I like the toxic spikes-like nature of its ability. Its shiny is awesome, and I feel like it's going to have a much larger role once the DLC is announced. There's something odd to me about Champion Gita having this as its ace Pokemon, especially with its ability. It just doesn't make sense to have last. And considering the fact that Wild Glamora are only found at the bottom of Area 0, it offers itself up to more questions than you first think. I want to like, same thing as Knackley, I want to like Shroodle a lot more. But Grafaiai, I like. I'm going to put, based on design, Grafaiai goes into B. I haven't seen much competitive usefulness for this. I remember when it was first announced, it kind of reminded me of Smeargle a little bit, which if I was doing Gen 2 right now, Smeargle would be in like C tier or D tier. But because of Grafaiai's design, I like that a lot more. Fido is adorable and will go into A tier for me. Daxpun is going into S tier. Not only is Daxpun more adorable than Fido, this thing was huge during the 7-star Charizard raid battles. Maschiff's Dex entry is very funny. I would take a look at that when you get a second. But Mabostiff goes right to S tier. If you've played through the whole story of this game, I don't need to say anything else. Bramblin is a tumbleweed, and Bramblegast is a bigger tumbleweed.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
Gimmighoul, though. See, I like Gimmighoul, but I'll throw into C tier here. I think because of the fact that we can actually evolve it with the chest form, I'll put the chest form into B tier. But Goldengo, woo, Goldengo goes right to S tier. Goldengo might be one of my top 5 favorite Pokemon from this generation. Its ability is fantastic, its stat spread is fantastic, its signature move is fantastic, and the thrill you get from finally obtaining Goldengo after the long treasure hunt of Gimmighoul coins, it's very satisfying. It's going to be hard for me to put anything in this family lower than B tier. I'm going to be honest. Fairy Steel is an awesome combo. The design is adorable to me. And the story of how it obtains its hammer is even better. Charcadet, to me, it's like this is a very similar case with like Capsicid or Glimmet or Frigibax. Like there's nothing in this category that really screams to me as it's going to take a lot of hits and it's going to last me in a battle. Maybe except for Knacklestack and the Tauros, but that's about it. Armor Rouge and Ceruledge, in my mind, are both going into S tier. The designs are simply put phenomenal. Both of these Pokemon have found themselves in significant roles in the competitive scene, and for good reason. I feel like I have to put Toadscool and Toadscruel into B tier, along with Wiglet and Wugtrio. I'll put Toadscool actually up into A tier, and the only reason why is because of its run. Watching this thing run is genuinely one of the most joyous things in the game to me. Oh, King Gambit. There's no way I'm not putting this in S tier. Actually, you know what? I'm sorry. This goes way ahead of Wooper here. This is one of my favorite Pokemon in this generation. I never got the chance to play with a Bisharp previously, but King Gambit is a badass, plain and simple. The design is awesome. The ability is awesome. Its stat spread, pretty good. And it's incredibly useful on the competitive scene along with that ability. And Annihilape is going right next to King Gambit. These two, I gotta be honest, Annihilape's probably my favorite Pokemon from this generation. So I'm gonna put Annihilape right at the top of S tier. Anytime the Pokemon Company brings in a new evolution from a pre-existing Pokemon from a prior generation, it's exciting. But to reach all the way back to Generation 1 and put the effort and care into the backstory and lore of why Annihilape exists, I mean, it leaves me speechless sometimes. And for those of you who don't know, the reason why Annihilape exists is because Primeape got so mad that it died. But the rageful spirit lived on and became Annihilape. I'm sorry, you just don't get cooler than that to me.
I am nourished by your hatred!
But at the same time, is Annihilape a zombie? And that brings us to the Paradox Pokemon. Starting with Great Tusk. I like the design of Great Tusk a lot. I'm going to put it into A tier because it is one of the better designs in my mind of the Paradox Pokemon, especially the Scarlet forms. Brute Bonnet is basically a Moongus. There are probably better uses for it in the competitive scene, but from what I can tell, nothing more than what a Moongus used to be. Sandy Shocks, I'm going to put in B tier for design. It's a weird one to me. How does Magneton have a past form? I mean, are magnets ancient? I mean, let's just examine this one for a moment. Sandy Shock's legs are gigantic magnets, right? Did ancient Paldeans know about magnetism? Did they know how to craft magnets? And why does it look like it's from the band Twisted Sister? I'm gonna put Screamtail up into A tier as well, because they made Jigglypuff really cool. But also, Screamtail has had a lot of usefulness on the competitive scene from what I've seen so far. Fluttermane, kind of similar in that regard. Slitherwing, this might be my favorite Scarlet Paradox Pokemon design, honestly. And the Shiny's pretty cool too. You know, I say that and then I get to Roaring Moon, but I mean, honestly, I'm also the kind of goat that my favorite isn't exactly everyone else's favorite, so when I see Roaring Moon being loved by everybody, I'll let that fan base have that. I'll stick with Slitherwing. And now we're into the Violet forms. This is one of the weaker designs in my mind of the Violet Paradox Pokemon. And I haven't seen it used a lot on the competitive scene, so I'm just not really too high on it right now. Iron Moth, on the other hand, I like this design a lot. Again, it kind of goes with the whole Volcarona theme, or rather, it goes with the whole Slitherwing theme. I'm gonna put Iron Moth into A based on design alone. Again, I haven't really seen it used. You know what, for the sake of that, I'll put it in B tier. I haven't really seen it used a lot on the competitive scene, so I'll hold off on that one. You know what, for the sake of the same competitive argument, I'm going to move Great Tusk down too. I haven't really seen that used heavily in competitive also. Iron Hands. This is an A tier Pokemon for its effectiveness in raid battles. Iron Jugulus is not great. The unfortunate thing is it may be a more useful Pokemon than I realized, but because of its design, I'm just not drawn to it that much. I'm just not drawn to wanting to use it that much in my party because it really is just another Hydreigon. I think we could put Iron Thorns into high B tier. I like the futuristic design of Tyranitar here. I mean, it is very similar to Tyranitar, but it's very different also in the sense that, you know, it's like Mecha Tyranitar. You wouldn't say that Mecha Godzilla is Godzilla, would you? Iron Bundle. Iron Bundle I'm actually going to put up into A tier because for some reason they made Delibird cool. I'm going to put it, actually, you know what, for that, I'm going to put it right next to Jigglypuff. These two have the very same logic. They made two Pokemon that were honestly kind of, in my mind, not that good, and they turned them into something that is really useful, changing my perception. Although I tell you, the next time I see a Delibird, I'm going to be extremely disappointed that it's not an Iron Bundle. Iron Valiant is another one of my favorite Pokemon that they introduced in this generation. I absolutely love this design. And it's very useful too. Great typing, great moves, good abilities, good stats. But the combination Gallade Gardevoir Pokemon is such an amazing idea. I would love to see more future Paradox Pokemon from split evolution lines like Glalie and Frostlass. Or maybe even Vileplume and Blossom, and show a little love to some Pokemon from Gens 1 and 2 that haven't really been cared about in a long, long time. And just to round out that argument, Poliwrath and Politoed. And after the Paradox mods, we now have our Ruinous Pokemon, Ting Lu. I'll be honest, on the competitive scene, I haven't really seen a whole lot of Ting Lu, but I feel like because it is such a tanky, beefy Pokemon, it belongs at least in mid-B tier. Chien-Pao, on the other hand, Chien-Pao is incredible. I'm going to put Chien-Pao into high A tier. I love the design. I think the Snow Leopard is so clean. The Swords for Fangs is an amazing concept, and it's really strong. Wo-Chien is not going to get a lot of love from me here, but I'm not going to put it into D tier because it is a Ruinous Pokemon. I'll put it into C tier. But otherwise, I mean, it's got the same typing as Meowscarada, and if you're going to have one or the other, just go with Meowscarada. In my mind. Chi-Yu is probably the best of the Ruinous Pokemon. I mean, on the competitive scene, it's just game-breaking. You can boost this thing's special attack while lowering every other Pokemon on the field's special defense, and that's just broken in my mind. Koraidon's battle form, and because of the shiny, I'm putting it straight into S tier. These legendaries, the battle form legendaries are incredible. They're so strong, they're so useful. Their shinies are really cool. I know they're shiny locked right now, but hopefully we'll get a distribution for them down the road. Right, Pokemon Company? Now, as far as the ride forms go, Koraidon is kind of silly to me. I'll put it into B tier, and I'll put Miraidon into A tier, only because it makes more sense that it's using its wheels, whereas Koraidon actually uses its arms to run. You got the wheel right there, man. So there it is, in all its glory. My definitive rankings for Generation 9's new Pokemon. I had fun making this. I might do more of these in the future. We'll see how the video is received first. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with my rankings. Who do you believe should be rated higher or rated a little lower? Also in the comments, let me know what your favorite Pokemon from this generation is. That's all the time we have for today. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell below to turn on notifications so you don't miss a video or when I go live streaming every Monday and Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm Goatly Goat. You all be safe out there, and I'll see you on the next one.